Well, it's finally time. Madden 21 Next Gen info is finally here. We got the trailer and we got a lot of news. So I'm not going to waste too much time here. I'm going to let you guys watch the trailer and then come back here and we're going to break down the blog where they go over all of the news we need to know about Next Gen Madden 21.
Welcome to the most realistic NFL simulation ever. It begins with next-gen player movement powered by NFL next-gen stats. RFID tags in NFL players' shoulder pads chart their every move within inches. And this information now drives all animation in Madden, delivering unique acceleration rates, directional changes, and movement for all players on the field. You'll feel the explosion of Michael Thomas in and out of his breaks, the elite acceleration and blow-by ability of Henry Ruggs, and the raw athleticism of Dalvin Cook, feeling dangerous on every touch. Defensively, players will move and position themselves based on their next-gen stats data. Elite defenders will react authentically to make plays on the ball and take unique angles when chasing down ball carriers. Next-gen player movement delivers realistic and smooth simulation gameplay based on actual NFL player data. Thanks to next-gen stats, you can only experience this in Madden. Throughout each game, key moments trigger next-gen stats replays, giving you an analytical breakdown of the play. Over 15 specific data points tracked on every down give you the information you need to make strategic decisions and optimize your gameplay. To help create these highlight moments, play calling is now more intuitive and accessible. You can easily call plays to get the ball in the hands of your star players. You can save your favorite plays to find quickly when the perfect moment arises. The next generation of Madden is here, and it's never felt so real. Feel game day in Madden NFL 21.
Okay, so that was the trailer. Obviously, visuals look good, but we want to get into the meat and potatoes of everything. Now, if you are new to the channel and you never want to miss out on the latest Madden updates, especially, I'm sure we're going to get even more news about Next Gen up until the release. Make sure you subscribe, turn the bell icon on so that you never miss any of these important uploads when they go live. So let's dive into the blog here. It says, what is Next Gen stats? I think this is kind of the biggest thing that they've got going here with Next Gen. It says NFL player tracking, also known as Next Gen stats, is the capture of real-time location data, speed, and acceleration for every player, every play on the field, every inch of the field. Sensors throughout the stadium track RFID tags placed on players' shoulder pads, charting individual movements within inches in every NFL stadium. So now the Next Gen stats equal Next Gen player movement for Madden 21. So now we have Next Gen stats equal Next Gen player movement for Madden 21. It says here, leveraging the power of NFL Next Gen stats, Next Gen player movement is fueled by real athlete data, route paths, and acceleration rates, allowing the next generation of Madden NFL to deliver the most realistic, authentic, and fluid player movement in franchise history. Feel the most elite NFL athletes at every position move on the virtual field like they do in real world. Expanding on the player archetypes introduced in Madden 21, on the current generation, we've added more animation content and nuance to each unique archetype on each or the next generation tech, so that they will move and feel even more differently on the sticks. For example, a big bruising ball carrier will run with a heavier weight and produce more tackle outcomes where he gains extra yards, while a small, agile ball carrier will change direction efficiently and avoid tackles rather than powering through them. Unique player movement per archetype with each captured across multiple body types. It says here, ball carrier, we have agile, agile small, agile tall, bruiser, bruiser quick, and bruiser heavy. For route runners, we have wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, and split. They're split between agile, agile small, agile tall, bruiser, bruiser quick, and bruiser heavy. The pass block movement is just specific to the offensive lineman. So, I mean, this is kind of, they're just expanding on what they did with current gen with the different archetypes and how they move. It did look in the trailer that they were moving a little more realistically, but again, with things like that, until we can play it and feel it, because it's one thing to look a certain way, but how does it feel when you play, right? That's kind of the, we don't know that until we play the game, like how good or bad it truly could be. So here they say next-gen stats and route running. It says with next-gen stats innovation, route running in Madden 21 has been completely overhauled. Receivers will run actual routes logged by next-gen stats, real NFL game data. In addition to speed and acceleration rates, our animation engine is also leveraging player-specific route paths from next-gen stats for individual receivers. For example, the path that Green Bay Packers wide receiver Davante Adams takes on a deep crossing route on a Sunday afternoon will be the same deep crossing route reflected by Adams in Madden NFL gameplay. The result is a natural feeling, fluid route with more rounded turns, athletic nuance, and player differentiation. Before, on previous gen, our receivers ran one specific point to another specific point at top speed all the time and made very similar cuts with very little difference between unique players. On next gen, the players and the archetypes will heavily impact the quality and speed of each route and how they will be run as an entire route from start to finish rather than an individual portion of a route. So, if you've ever looked at like a next gen chart where they chart the routes of a receiver each game, you notice that they look completely different than routes in Madden. They just look like almost like just little like wavy lines, right? They don't have like these complete just sharp cuts and stops and turns, whereas in Madden you're just following like a actual like very specific path. You're cutting on a dime, you're stopping at this very specific point. It's more robotic, whereas in real life it's very rounded, right? When you run a corner route, you don't stop hard and run at an angle, you kind of round it off. That's what the route trees show. Well, now in Madden, that's going to be the same thing. They're going to run these routes more fluid and more like they do in real life instead of running it so robotic. I think that's an actual very interesting and good change in terms of making it more authentic. Again, how does it feel when you play it? You know, that we don't know yet. So next we have next gen stats and defense. It says next gen player movement doesn't just benefit the offense. We also analyze next gen stats data for defensive players in terms of speed, facing direction, and acceleration. The data has allowed our animation engine to provide the appropriate content to make defenders who are backpedaling and strafing much more natural looking and athletic. In coverage, players will react and break on plays more consistently and predictably. And next gen stats also brought improvements to AI pursuit so that when AI controlled defenders are pursuing a ball carrier, they will now get in better position to make a play or be in better position for a timely click on for the user to make the play. Lastly, but just as important for the defensive side of the ball, was next level tech for tackling. We've built a new tackle prediction and animation technology we call Rally. With Rally, not only will you be able to start tackle interactions easier, but you'll see more variety in tackles, improving visual quality in terms of tackle prep and anticipation, and more authentic interactions during impact moments. Now, all of that does sound good, right? Because pursuit, I mean, it's been really bad in Madden for a long time. The way defenders break on the ball, been very bad in Madden, right? Defensive AI as a whole is like one of those pain points that we always talk about. So if they're going to move more realistically, break more realistically, and definitely if they can pursue better in the open field and tackle better and have more realistic tackle outcomes that don't look forced and like too animation driven, I do think for the look and feel of the game, that is a good thing. But as I've said multiple times already, we gotta play it to really know. Words are one thing, trailers are one thing. Actually playing the real game is a completely different thing, as we've come to know. Next, we have the next-gen stats powered replays. Now, this did look really cool in the trailer to me. It said, to surface some of this data to our players, we've also added presentation elements to our instant replays so players can relive the thrill of game-changing plays, all backed by next-gen stats. Next-gen stats powered replays can be triggered by certain statistical moments, and then they are presented in beautifully rendered cinematics throughout the gameplay experience. With the increased power provided by next-gen consoles, Madden NFL is able to replicate the real-time positional RFID, the radio frequency identification data collection system by the NFL to calculate next-gen stats on the virtual gridiron. The data is then used to create these new dynamic replays to highlight the biggest plays by the best players in the game as shown through the lens of next-gen stats, just like you would commonly see on any NFL broadcast. So the next time you flatten the left tackle or sack the quarterback in under 2 seconds, put a couple of defenders on skates for a 40-yard rush, or rocket the ball 60 yards downfield for a game-winning touchdown, you'll get the recognition you deserve, and it will be backed by hard data. Primary next-gen stat replay triggers: completed air distance, rushing distance, ball carrier speed, tackle length, time to sack. secondary next-gen stat replay triggers can be yards after catch, time to throw, and I'm not going to read them all through. You can pause the video, but they're up on screen here. This is really cool to me. This is, this is simulation. This is, that little extra presentation that Madden has lacked, and they're still lacking in a bunch of areas, but I like to see stuff like this. This is what we want to see in the game. At least this is what I want to see in the game. That just adds more immersion to me. Next, we have next-gen play calling. So they did upgrade the play call thing a little bit. This was interesting. I do like that you can save your favorite plays and stuff like that now. It says here, to provide a solid foundation for the player movement system, we've also made significant update to our play call system, giving players more control to call the best plays for the right players on every down via the by player play calling option, and you can now keep all of your preferred plays on speed dial with the new favorite play marker and the playbook tab, which provides an intuitive way to save your favorite and easily find them for later. Again, that's a small thing, but I think, a good kind of quality of life type improvement. Now here's some additional gameplay improvements, and this is what it looks like they really went all in on gameplay. We haven't heard anything about modes. Maybe that's going to come later, but I think the gameplay is what matters most. So if the gameplay is being updated, right, if we're getting much better player movement and realistic play with the presentation being updated, I think that's the right move personally, because that's where Madden lacks more than anything. The gameplay has just been really bad for a while. So let's talk about these gameplay improvements. Pass lead. It says next-gen stats and player movement opened up the ability to lead receivers on deep routes more effectively, so that's nice. The run game, it's easier to read the lanes and find those satisfying cutback lanes. I mean, the run game's already pretty easy, but that's more so because the defense, the lack of pursuit and stuff like that. So if that stuff is better too, then I'm fine with the run game being easier to read the running lanes and things like that. QB movement, it says movement in and out of the pocket is smooth and athletic. You'll also feel the differentiation in movement all over the field when comparing pocket passers to mobile QBs. To me, I feel like we've already been feeling that, but I don't know if there's anything different there that they're doing. Head tracking, it says head movement is more realistic for receivers when running routes and for ball carriers in terms of when and where they're looking, making them look more aware of the on-field action. Tackling, we've already talked about our new rally tech, but we've also improved gang tackles. Gang tackles will trigger more often with much more variety. We've also made improvements to tackle momentum, and it's now much more realistic with direction, weight, and speed of players involved, taking into account for tackle selection and post-tackle follow-through, and even defensive users can now interact with gang tackles. That sounds good. I mean, again, I feel like we've heard them say things like this before, and sometimes it gets better, sometimes it doesn't. Let's hope it does get a little bit better. I like that the user can pile on the gang tackles now, because that has always been like an eyesore when you just couldn't get an animation before to get in on a tackle. It says improved pass rush timing. Now, pass rush the last couple years has already been good, so let's see what this says. It says, with the passing game moving at a more realistic speed, the pass rush has more of an impact relative to the timing relationship between the QB dropback, the depth of the route, and the speed of the incoming pass rushers. So we'll see how that plays out. And then they throw in here blazing fast load times. I mean, we already knew this was going to be a thing. It says faster load times powered by next generation tech get you into the game quicker than ever. You never lose focus as stadium environments will load out with unprecedented speed, letting you get to the kickoff in seconds. Redesigned loading systems on next-gen tech allowed us to maximize the I/O bandwidth and the processing by utilizing the high-speed SSD and the integrated I/O of the next-generation console. Stadiums and environments will load almost instantly, the front-end experience and the in-game more connected than ever, providing more time of actual gaming and less waiting. And I mean, I've played the current gen version of Madden 21 on the next-gen systems, and I mean, I don't know how relative this is to the actual next-gen version of the game, but when I wanted to start a game, I was literally into the game in 3 seconds. So I mean, yeah, that's pretty cool, but that's expected with next-gen. So let me know what you think below. We'll have more news obviously soon as well, but seems like they went very gameplay focused for next-gen, which I personally don't have a problem with. If player movement is more realistic, if all these presentation things, make the game more immersive, I think that's fine. I probably would have liked to see more, like in terms of modes, but we don't know because they haven't really talked about modes yet, so maybe that is coming. But let me know what you think below. As always, I will see you guys next time.